So one of the things I hear a lot is I don't have enough time for practice. I'd love to practice my guitar, but I just don't have the time. Well, poo-poo on that. I am here to tell you, if you just have a couple of minutes, then you can get something done on the guitar. The key to short practices is focus. It's about focusing and doing one thing at a time, and it's about knowing in advance what it is that you're going to do. So it's great to have some very short practice schedules in your back pocket so that if you just have a couple of minutes, and I know you do, just look at your Netflix history. So if you do have a couple of minutes, you can pick it up and get some really meaningful work done that will bring your playing forward in a very short amount of time. So what we're gonna do here is dive into a 6-minute practice that you can do so that if you can just know exactly what you're doing beforehand, boom, you can get a lot done in just 6 minutes. Now, if you wanted to expand this to 12 minutes, then, well, by all means, you could make each of these different things. Instead of 1 minute, you could make them 2 minutes, or you could do this particular sequence twice if you really want to get crazy. So with that, let's dive into this 6-minute practice. All right, minute number 1. Let's dive right in. So here we're going to do an independence exercise. So 1 finger per fret, pick your string, any string, and thumb behind your 2nd finger. Have nice curves, not so much tension. You don't need to squeeze here. Just touch, lightly press, and then lift and replace 1 finger at a time while the other ones stay where they are and without pressing too much or lifting for the other ones. 1 finger at a time. It's an independence exercise. The key here with any independence exercise is to go slow enough so that you don't get crosstalk between the different fingers. So you want each finger to move independently. It's probably going to be hard. That's the whole point. If it's not hard, then you need to up the challenge so that you're actually getting something done in your 1 minute of independence exercises. Now, another one that you could do, if you find it very easy, then you could do it's like, some people call it a spider type of walk, but you place, again, the 4-finger position, and then you just move 1 finger to the next string, and then the next, and then the next. And again, the key here is to go slow enough so that it's just 1 thing at a time. If you start to speed up, you might notice that things start to move early. So 1 finger at a time. Up, you can come back down as well. And so this is a great independence exercise. The key is that you stay with it the entire time and that you pay attention the entire time. So that's a great way to spend your first minute. Here's a question for you. How are you going to keep track of these minutes? If you keep looking at the clock, that's going to distract you from actually paying attention to what you're doing. Instead, I recommend getting a programmable timer app on your phone. Most timers will do it. And so if you just make it to where it just chimes every 60 seconds, then that's going to be a great way to do it. You just push play, and then you'll just hear a ding every 60 seconds. You can look for those. There are so many of them, and chances are you might even have one on your phone already. So going into minute 2. For minute 2, let's focus on the right hand. So we're going back and forth. So then here, it's great to do some arpeggio patterns. What is an arpeggio? It's just a finger picking pattern. So it could just be a simple P-I-M-A, so thumb, index, middle, ring finger. Even tempo, so really steady clip. If you know what you're doing as far as guitar technique, then use those skills. Focus on the actual movements, the positioning, the form, everything. Over at Classical Guitar Show, we talk a lot about this kind of thing because in classical guitar, it's really important how you use your hands in all guitar, but you'll be able to play so much better if you're actually using good technique. So it could be a P-I-M-A, it could be just the fingers I-M-A, whatever it happens to be for you right now. Choose one, stick with that. Don't constantly be bouncing around on them unless you plan it in advance. Otherwise, you're going to start thinking, what's next, instead of actually doing the work of focusing on your hands. And remember, this is actually practice. So the most important thing is that you know what the challenge is and you are challenging yourself. So you're riding that edge of it's hard, but it's not too hard. So it could be that your challenge is, I'm going to play with really even tone and even volume so that the fingers really sound similar. And And so then that could be what you're listening for really intently. Whatever it is, could be a steady rhythm, it could be a particular steady volume, whatever it is. Just keep yourself hot with it so that you're always paying attention. Now, if you'd like to, you can use some sort of right hand. You can play a chord or something like that in your right hand so that your arpeggio sounds more musical. However, since you only have a minute here, it's nice to keep that as simple as possible so that you don't start thinking about the left hand in any way, because this is a right hand moment. This is the minute for the right hand. Anything that you do with the left hand that takes any sort of mental bandwidth is just taking away from what you're actually doing. So keep it super simple, if at all, in the right. Just use open strings or keep it really simple within just a couple of chords. Before moving to minute number 3, I'll just briefly mention I'm Alan Matthews from Classical Guitar Shed, and if you are interested in classical guitar, you should put that website on your radar. There's a big sheet music library, free sheet music and tabs over there, and tons of lessons, hundreds and hundreds of free lessons and other things that you can find over there. So minute number 3, we will go into scales. And again, if you're using your classical guitar technique, then there are specific ways of working on this, specific things that you're looking for in your hands and in your sounds and everything else. But it could be that you're just learning your scale patterns, and that's perfectly fine too. Whatever it is that you're doing, practice scales for 1 minute. And so it's great to know exactly what scale you're playing in advance and just focus on that. And it's quality. It's not just about remember the shape, unless you're first learning the shape. Then it could just be about remembering what the order of notes is. If you know the order of notes, then quality is everything. Even tempo, really steady tempo. Use your metronome if you would like to. Right hand fingering's very consistent. The left hand. Think about your left hand placement right behind the frets. Think about the tension you're using, the nice curved C shape in your left hand. So you're really looking at quality of work here, because you only have a minute. You don't have time to just goof off and randomly just noodle around on some chords. You can also think about how high your fingers are coming off the guitar and try to keep them nice and low. It's a wonderful thing to focus on. With each note, you might notice that whenever you play one particular finger, your pinky flies up into the air. And if that's the case, then maybe just practice and really pay attention to that. So I'll also mention, if you don't know any scales, if you're just beginning and you don't know any scales, just use 1, 2, 3, 4 up the different strings. And just play up and down 1, 2, 3, 4. It's a wonderful exercise, uses all the fingers, and it keeps you playing a scale. It is a scale. So you can just do that. So 1 minute of scale practice. Very focused, very high quality. Minute number 4 is slurs. And again, if you haven't done slurs before, then you can find some lessons like that online. We have tons of them. They're very easy to find. You can just search for slurs or hammer-ons and pull-offs. So with this then, you can start with your weakest finger. Let's just say your weakest finger is 3 and 4. And so then you can just go up and do maybe hammer-ons and just go up and down, or pull-offs. The key is to focus on an even speed as you're playing, even tempo. Want to make it musical. Even if you're just practicing an exercise, as musical as you can make it, the better, because that musicality will then transfer into the actual music that you're playing. You won't get used to playing with really poor rhythm or really poor sounds or distracted. So quality all the way. So with pull-offs especially, listen to the second note. This is just a little pull-off tip for you. Listen to the second note and listen to the duration so it just doesn't become. Don't let it be short. Listen to the duration. And that's just a way to really challenge yourself to play musical pull-offs. You could also just go through all the different finger combinations. 1 and 2, 2 and 3, 3 and 4, 1 and 3, and 2 and 4. Go up and down. The main thing is that you're challenged. If it's very easy, then it's not hard enough. Speed up or focus in and look deeper at what it is that you're doing. And in that, you'll quickly find something that challenges you and makes it harder. Minute number 5. And if you'd like to download a PDF of this routine with some notes, then you can. The link is below. So minute number 5. we have the bar practice. So bar chords are strenuous and tricky if you're just starting on them. So it's great to practice them. So even if you're actually very good at them, it's really good to practice. So if you're just starting out, just 2 strings and just practice playing the bar. And it could just be that you just move up like this. So that you're playing 2 strings and each of those strings is sounding. One step harder than that is to play those and then also play other fingers on top of it, so that you have to keep that bar while playing other fingers above. You can then go to 3 strings and do the same thing. And just playing that, you could go to 4 strings, 5. You can also just practice all of your, some big bar chord and just play it around. The main thing is that you are practicing listening to all of the notes, practicing getting those bar chords really clean and really nice and consistent. And that will certainly affect all of the pieces that you play, because most of us could be better at bar chords. Even at an advanced level, you can play them with less effort. You can rest more fully between them if you just have a bounce like this. That little bounce could actually be more restful. You could release more tension within it. So practicing bar chords is a great thing to do for a minute. And number 6, our final minute, is some sort of musical challenge that you're having in a piece that you're playing. So it could be anything, just a measure that you're working on in a piece of music. So if it's let's just say it's that little thing. So then if that's the tricky spot, and it could be much shorter than that as well. Anything that it could be a shift, it could be a particular tough spot, whatever it is, go through and actually practice that. Don't just play it, but actually practice that. So how do you do that? Well, first off, you could just practice very slowly and listen to each note, make sure that they all speak. You could look at where each finger lies, so making sure that you're right behind the fret for every single finger is a great thing to do. You could look at the right hand, play the right hand by itself and the left hand by itself. You could play with different rhythms, so dotted rhythms are great for practice. And then switching that up. So going through and practicing with different rhythms is a wonderful thing. You could look at the right hand and do the quick prepping over there. That's kind of like planting or preparing each note so that it is touching the string before it actually plays and you're planting it on there. I call it quick prepping because you just get there really fast to the next one. So you're preparing, but you're preparing right along with the previous note that played. So however it is that you're working on it, there are many practice methods that you could use. The add a note method, the hands separately method, dotted rhythms. There's so many practice methods, and they're wonderful to learn and work on. The main thing is that you're actually practicing and not just playing it over and over. Paulo Coelho had a great quote where he said that any mistake that you repeat more than once is a decision, which I think is really great. So if you're just making a mistake over and over, you're deciding to make that mistake. So instead, actually practice. Slow it down, look at, and really solve that problem within that bar. 1 minute. And that little 1 minute of practice will do wonders for the whole piece in general. So now we have 6 minutes of practice. Let's just go back through them again. So we have an independence exercise, followed by some right hand patterns, arpeggios, followed by scales, followed by slurs, followed by bars, followed by a piece of a piece, a bit of a piece. So to use this, it's important that you actually can remember this and you actually know what it is that you're doing so that you don't have to decide in the moment what you're actually going to do. Instead, you know ahead of time. So jot this down. Just take a minute and jot it on a piece of paper, stick it with your guitar, or download the PDF that's linked below. Anything that you'd like to do. You'll also need to know what scale am I going to play? Do I know how to do slurs? If not, then what am I going to do instead? What independence exercise am I going to favor for right now? And it could be that you switch it up every couple of weeks or month. So figuring out what it is ahead of time so that whenever you have a minute, you can sit down, pick up your guitar, and know exactly what you're doing and can just get right to it. Anytime that you have to ask yourself, what am I going to do? The game is lost at that point. Chances are you're not going to have a focused practice if that's what you're asking yourself in the moment of practice. So instead, get it ready, sit it there. If you have a minute or 6 of them, then sit down and you'll have a really wonderful practice. And again, allow me to harp on it. Quality in a short practice is really the key. So anytime that you would like to practice a short practice, really focus on quality. And that means attention. Very high attention on exactly what you're doing and on all details of what you're doing, where your fingers are, how you're using your hands, what you're hearing. It's all right here. If you have room in your head for anything else, then chances are you're not actually giving enough attention to what is at hand, which is all these details of playing. All right, so enjoy your practice. Have a lovely time with your short practices, with your long practices, and all the best in your work. See you soon. Bye-bye.